Welcome to ILTV on the Hour. We're live from Israel with your top headlines from across the region. It's 7 a.m. in New York and 2 p.m. here in Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv, and these are the latest developments coming to you live from Israel. In a sharp escalation on Israel's northern front, the IDF has carried out a series of targeted strikes across southern Lebanon, eliminating multiple Hezbollah and Hamas operatives. In Atiri, the military says it killed a Hezbollah figure responsible for rebuilding the group's readiness, a direct violation of post-war agreements. And in the village of Beit Lif, the IDF says Hezbollah has been actively re-establishing terror infrastructure in a blatant breach of the ceasefire understandings. IDF troops working with Northern Command and the Intelligence Directorate identified dozens of sites, including headquarters, weapons storage facilities, and operational posts hidden inside civilian homes and next to schools and public buildings. Israel says these locations were previously reported to the international mechanism, but were not addressed. Earlier in the day, 2 more operatives were eliminated in the Bin Jbeil and Blida regions while attempting to rebuild terror assets and gather intelligence on IDF troops. And in a separate operation, the Air Force struck a Hamas training compound inside the In El Helwe camp, a site Israel says was used to prepare attacks on IDF soldiers. Lebanese reports say 13 were killed. Israel says the facility was under long-term surveillance and hit with precision munitions. The IDF says it will continue operating anywhere in Lebanon to remove emerging threats and will not allow Hezbollah or Hamas to rebuild the capabilities that triggered last year's war. Amid the ceasefire, Israeli forces operating inside the IDF-held security zone in southern Gaza came under fire by Hamas operatives, prompting a swift Israeli response. The shooting occurred east of the Yellow Line, clearly within the area designated as Israeli-controlled under the truce. No IDF soldiers were injured, but the military says the attack is a direct violation of the agreement. Within minutes, the Israeli Air Force launched a series of strikes across Gaza. Palestinian reports describe hits in Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood and near Han Yunis, while the IDF says every target struck was tied to the cell responsible for the attack. Gaza officials report at least 24 killed. Israel says all locations targeted were legitimate Hamas military sites embedded inside civilian areas and warns the ceasefire cannot hold if Hamas continues to fire on its troops. Repeated shooting incidents in recent days have fueled concerns over the stability of the U.S.-brokered truce, the first stage of President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza plan. Israel says it will meet every attack with an immediate and forceful response. A senior U.S. official confirms that formation of the International Security Force for Gaza, approved by the UN Security Council, is now being fast-tracked for deployment in early 2026. A look inside the U.S.-led Civil Military Coordination Center in southern Israel, the multinational force, or ISF, is expected to arrive in the Strip in the first months of the year, with Azerbaijan and Indonesia emerging as the most likely contributors. Training has yet to begin, and funding remains a major challenge, with the Arab and European states being urged to step in. Meanwhile, the U.S.-led Civil Military Coordination Center in Kiryat Gat is expanding rapidly, now overseeing most humanitarian and security logistics. American troops will not enter Gaza, but U.S. Central Command says they will continue directing aid flow and the implementation of President Trump's 20-point plan from the Israeli side. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the IDF-controlled security zone in southern Syria yesterday, underscoring what he called Israel's immense defensive and offensive importance there as talks with Damascus remain stalled. He arrived with senior officials, including the defense and foreign ministers, the IDF chief of staff, and Israel's ambassador to the United States, touring an IDF outpost, meeting soldiers, and receiving a classified briefing along the volatile frontier. Israel says its forces remain deployed up to 15 kilometers inside Syria to stop weapons from reaching Hezbollah and other hostile groups. Damascus condemned the visit as a serious violation of sovereignty, linking it to President al-Shaara's recent White House meeting, where he criticized Israel's presence in Syria. For now, Israeli officials say no security arrangement with Damascus is close, and Israel will not withdraw without a full peace agreement. Let's hear Netanyahu on site.
אנחנו מייחסים חשיבות עצומה ליכולת שלנו, גם ההגנתית וגם ההתקפית כאן, שמירה על בעלי בריתנו הדרוזים, ועיקר שמירה על מדינת ישראל ועל גבולה הצפוני אל מול גולן. זו משימה שיכולה להתפתח כל רגע.
The Mossad has revealed a major breakthrough with the uncovering of a wide organized Hamas terror network operating across Europe, according to Israel's intelligence agency. A series of coordinated raids in Austria and Germany led to multiple arrests and the seizure of weapons, explosives, and operational materials intended for use on command. Investigators identified Mahmoud Naim, the son of senior Hamas official Bassem Naim, as the key architect of the network. Naim met with his father in Qatar to advance the operation, linking the conspiracy directly to Hamas top leadership. The agency also confirms active involvement of Hamas operatives based in Turkey. Since the October 7th massacre, Hamas has intensified its efforts to build cells, supply lines, and logistic hubs across Europe, strategy that intelligence officials say mimics Iran and its proxies. The Mossad reports it has disrupted dozens of plots over the past year, crediting what it calls close and persistent intelligence cooperation with European partners. Now, as the region enters a new and volatile phase, Israel is now facing escalation on multiple fronts, from Hezbollah and Hamas activity in Lebanon to ceasefire breaches in Gaza to intensifying tensions with Syria and the fast-tracked international force set for deployment in 2026. To help us break down all of these developments, we are now joined by Major in Reserves Avraham Levine of the Alma Research and Education Center and retired Colonel Dr. Jacques Neriah, Special Analyst for the Middle East at JCFA and former Chief Analyst at the Israeli Military Intelligence. Thank you very much for joining. Let's start with you. Let's start with you, Jacques. With Lebanon, Israel carried out a major wave of strikes targeting both Hezbollah and Hamas. From your perspective, how significant is this escalation compared to previous months?
Well, you're talking to somebody that sees himself as Cato in the Roman Empire and been pointing all the time at Carthago, Carthago, Carthago. I've been pointing at Hezbollah's efforts since November 2024 to reconstitute its ranks, to recruit new combatants, to replace the commanders that were killed. 2,500 of them were killed during the campaign, and opening again factories for the production of the precision-guided missiles, of drones, and other weapons that are right now smuggled from Syria and other places. And Hezbollah is preparing himself for a long time for a confrontation with Israel. And right now, he doesn't think that this is the time for Hezbollah to fight. It's the time to prepare. And just in case Israel will attack massively, then he is prepared to confront Israel. As they say, they are ready for Karbala syndrome. Karbala syndrome means, in fact, a suicidal attitude of Shia who are ready to die even if they lose the battle. So this is where we stand right now today. And Hezbollah has several fronts to take care. I mean, you're talking about Israel has several fronts. Hezbollah has also several fronts: the Lebanese domestic front, the Syrian front, and the Israeli front. So, I mean, and they are as busy as we are in trying to put themselves on the middle of the political scene in Lebanon and imposing their agenda on the Lebanese government, a failed state, a failed government, a failed army.
Avraham, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I completely agree. I would add that just looking at the attacks on the Israeli side, I do not see a significant escalation. If we follow the numbers of attacks, we've continued attacking all along the past year. We've counted over 650 attacks not only in South Lebanon, but across Lebanon altogether, all attacks against Hezbollah. And I don't see that stopping in the near future. But on the other hand, I do not see a significant escalation either. And it's interesting to try and think, why is there a need to put out there that everything's escalating and everything's getting worse? We're in a stagnant situation, as Jacques Neriah said, of preparation on the other side and rehabilitation and local manufacturing, and also a war on perception internally in Lebanon of rebuilding the position of Hezbollah as a strong organization. But I do not see an escalation on our side. I think the only thing that these attacks prove is that Hezbollah is trying to return to South Lebanon and return to the abilities they had before the attack a year ago.
So let me ask you, the IDF says that Hezbollah is rebuilding and rearming. Does Israel have room to be concerned on this front? How likely are Hezbollah to engage in a renewed conflict? We know that Nasrallah and many of their other operatives were eliminated.
Well, I'll give you a parallel. In 2006, after the Lebanon Second War, Hezbollah had around 10 to 15,000 missiles, and Israel conducted since 2006 till 2024 maybe 600, 700 air raids, airstrikes on convoys coming from Syria, on Syrian sites, on Hezbollah sites. And what was the result? The result that instead of having 15,000 missiles, Hezbollah just covered more than 200,000 missiles. So this is what's happening today. You're talking about escalation. All this doesn't stop Hezbollah from rearming, doesn't stop Hezbollah from receiving hundreds of missiles coming from Syria and manufacturing new missiles and new drones. So if escalation has to be, it has certainly has to be resemblant to what was in the last days of the campaign against Hezbollah, where Israel raided more than 1,600 times, 1,600 sorties against Hezbollah targets. And this is where Hezbollah broke and accepted the defeat.
Now, Israel revealed that dozens of the Hezbollah sites hidden in civilian homes, schools, public buildings. What does this show us about their continued terrorist strategy, Avraham?
I don't see anything on this front either.
Nothing.
Hezbollah always used the Lebanese civilians as human shields. They even tried to do it with the Christian residents in South Lebanon and Remesh, for instance. But that's their method. And that's why I want to take it even a step further. While Israel's official policy is saying we don't want Hezbollah back in South Lebanon, I think the policy should be we don't want the people of the towns by the border back, because if they're back, Hezbollah is back. We do not have the ability to differentiate Hezbollah from the civilians. So when UNIFIL visits Bleide, for me, they're visiting a military base called Bleide that Hezbollah is trying to rebuild. When they speak about Beit Lif, I don't see it as a Lebanese village. I see it as a Hezbollah base. Therefore, it will probably be attacked again and again. As long as Hezbollah will try to return, IDF will continue.
I quite agree with this, with the analysis. And I mean, we have to bear in mind that Hezbollah reorganized itself even in South Lebanon, south of the Litani. In every village, you have these intervention squads that have been created by Hezbollah, who replace the combatants, the regular terrorists. They are just they're dressed in civilians, but they have all the possibilities of using their weapons against them. And then there's something very, very preoccupying: is the special relation that is being right now established between the army, the Lebanese army, and Hezbollah, to such a point that right now the American administration has had enough of that, and some information has leaked about special relations that exist between the chief of the army, Rodolphe Haikal, and one of the main major, I would think, promoter of Hezbollah in the parliament, Wafiq Safa, and it seems that there's some kind of deals that are being made between the two, whereas Haikal is looking further in 5 years from now to become the next president, exactly what Michel Aoun did in 2006 when he signed the strategic alliance with Hezbollah, and it took him 10 years to be the president of Lebanon. So this is where we stand today, and this is why the Americans have just stopped and asked the Lebanese not to come to Washington, stop the visit, stop all the meetings that were scheduled for this gentleman, and of course threatening that the further aid to the Lebanese army will be under scrutiny much more than in the past, and maybe their investment in the Lebanese army is just a failure.
Now, Lebanon claims these strikes were disproportionate, while Israel argues that it prevented future attacks. My question is, could the Lebanese government really succeed eventually at getting rid of Hezbollah? Is that even possible? Avraham, what do you think?
Well, first of all, a little background about the Lebanese army. As Jacques started speaking, heavily invested by U.S. I think U.S. is not buying.
You might have cut out. Can you hear me, Avraham? Jacques, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Avraham is not with us until he gets back. Maybe you can answer that question. Do you think the Lebanese government can actually get rid of Hezbollah at any point?
Are you seeing a big grin on my face? So this is exactly what the Lebanese government is worth of. This is, as I said, it's a failed government. These are Lebanese. I don't want to be stereotypical, but they are merchants. Their history is full of sponsorships. Once there were the French, and then there were the British, and after the British there were the Americans, and after the Americans were the Israelis, and then the Syrians, and now they're looking for somebody else to do the job they cannot do themselves. This government is not able to give the order to the army to act against Hezbollah, because the moment they will do that, the army will disintegrate into sectarian units, because this is the way it is built. 60% of the Lebanese army is Shia, and those Shia will not fight the countrymen in the south of Lebanon or in the north. It happens that like in 1975, the moment the army was asked to intervene, the army disintegrated, and there was no more Lebanese army, and it was the door open for civil war. This is what is expected in Lebanon if the Lebanese government asks the army to intervene against Hezbollah, and it will not do that. They understand that, and Hezbollah is using that, is exploiting the situation in order to impose itself as on the agenda. One, no disarmament. Second, no direct or indirect negotiation with Israel. So do not change, please, the electoral system in Lebanon, because it will not fit. And fourthly and lastly is that do not hurt us financially, because this is what the American administration is trying to do, to choke Hezbollah from receiving finance from outside, from Iran and from Africa and other places in South America.
Avraham, you were trying to say?
I think we also have to remember that the worst situation in Lebanon did not happen when Israel is attacking Hezbollah, or in the 80s when Israel was attacking Palestinians. It happened in the years that Jacques just mentioned. In the 70s, a civil war. That's the worst threat that can be. So let's listen together to Naim Qassem when he speaks about his own government, and he says, if the government will lay a hand on our arms, we will go to civil war. He's saying exactly the same thing. I think it's about time we listen and accept the facts. That's Hezbollah, and right now, no one else is taking care of the problem except IDF.
Okay, well, moving on to Syria and what's happening there. Prime Minister Netanyahu made a high-profile visit to Israeli-held territory in southern Syria. What message was he trying to send here to Damascus, to Washington, to Hezbollah, in your opinion, Avraham?
Oh, he's definitely sending a message of we're here and we're here to stay. I think it's all part of negotiations. Both Giuliani's jokes about Israeli presence in the Golan Heights and in the 9 posts that we built beyond the Alpha line, as well as Netanyahu visit in the Golan Heights and his declaration in the front line, so to speak. And I think it's all part of a negotiation. I'd like to add that there are common goals on the Giuliani side of things and on our side of things. A stable Syria is a common interest, in my opinion. Stopping smuggling that Jacques mentioned before of weapons from Syria to Hezbollah is an effort that we're both taking part of. We take turns, Giuliani and IDF, who will stop the next smuggling from Syria to the Bekaa Valley. And I think there are common interests, and that's a base that we can start working on. Not I won't go as far as a peace agreement, so Jacques doesn't burst in laughter, but I think a security agreement might be in place in the near future.
Well, Jacques, Israel says that it must stay deployed up to 15 kilometers inside Syria to prevent weapons from reaching Hezbollah. How sustainable is this long term? Could Israel actually remain there?
Well, this is not serious as an argument, because, I mean, the border between Lebanon and Syria is such that weapons can flow from Syria into Lebanon because there is no border that has been delimited between the two countries since 1946. So there are 6 official place or cross points between Syria and Lebanon, but there are 377 illegal passages where those passages are controlled by families, by tribes, by Hezbollah, with a remote control, opening the fence, closing the fence, closing the door, opening the door. This is what we have. I mean, it's a 500 kilometers of border. This is not something that we, with the 15 kilometers that we have right now in the Golan, I think that we're missing the opportunity. There is an opportunity right now, strategic one, to transform the situation in Syria into the next border of Israel facing Iran. Instead of having the Syrian border and the Iranian presence on our borders, we should look at the borders between Syria and Iraq as our common borders. And this is what we have to discuss right now, a strategic agreement, which is, I mean, right now of interest of the two sides, of both sides. We have that. And I don't think this is wise right now to go into the area that we have just conquered after the 8th of December. This is just, I mean, this is a gimmick. There's nothing serious in that. And we've seen that there are discussions in Azerbaijan, in the Emiratis, and in the Golan between the Israeli officials and Syrian officials, and we might be very close to an agreement. And I think that this agreement is something very important, of utmost importance for Israel's strategy in the Middle East.
So President al-Shaara's Washington visit with Trump, what can we assume would be the result of that trip now on the ground? Is there a connection between, what's happening now and that visit that was just recently?
Well, the Ahmad al-Shaara visit to Washington was meant first and foremost to just alleviate the sanctions on Syria. Because as long as these sanctions exist, no money will flow into Syria from investments from Europe or from the Arab countries, the Gulf countries, will not happen. And this was one of the major goals of the visit. And certainly, I mean, Ahmad al-Shaara has put himself in a situation where he tells the Americans, I have changed camps. I am no more in the negative camps. I'm not in the resistance axis of Iran. I am on the other side. I'm with you. And I think that from the Trump administration point of view, I mean, if you look at the map, I mean, the map that is behind Abraham, see that the American influence begins in Turkey, goes to Syria, goes to Iraq, and further down to Saudi Arabia. This is a big change in the area. This is not this didn't have any precedent in the past. And this is a new situation, and the Syrians are using it in order to get some a major assistance from the United States. Would you be surprised if tomorrow morning Donald Trump will agree to give a $1 trillion loan to Syria? I don't think that this would be a surprise.
I think we can add to that. First of all, I don't think there's anyone in Israel that's against the Syrian people having a better life. The other thing I'd like to add is that I think the bigger threats on Julani or al-Shaara, I sort of like his older name better as a resident of the Golan Heights. I'll remember his jihadist nickname a little longer than others, but I think his threat, his problem is more internal than external. Externally, he's doing very well. He visited Russia, he visited Trump, he's bringing in forces from all over. I think internally there's a long way to go before we have a stable neighbor that we can count on as an ally. And I think that's a step that bringing in clear American support helps him immensely in showing he's affecting change and in bringing together all the different forces that he's trying to keep together as a coalition after he took down Assad.
Yeah, I think Abraham is right concerning the internal situation. If you look at what's happening in Syria lately, at least 4 attempts to kill Julani or Ahmad al-Shaara has been registered lately. I mean, and these are, part of them are Hezbollah cells and part of them are Iranian cells. And there are also those internal, those domestic elements that were part of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the organization that took over Syria, and they don't agree very much with the policy concerning Israel. We remember very well the fact when in Sueda there was this attack, this horrendous attack against the Druze, that some of the combatants there who just came from Damascus just expressed themselves and said that the next target is Jerusalem. So I mean, this is something that he has to fight against. And right now, as much as we know, he is trying to eliminate all those who are in the opposition. He's doing quite a job. But it doesn't mean that this is the end of it. Alawites are still there. The Druze are still there. There are some news about the collaborator Al-Bal'ous, who has been attacked and an attempt on his life. There are the Kurds that are the problem with the Kurds that has not been solved. And as Abraham said, as long as the situation is unstable, Israel cannot live with instability. Israel would prefer stability. And in this realm, this is why I think the American presence, if there is an American airbase south of Damascus, it would be, I mean, a revolution. And if this happens, this means that Ahmad Shah Jolani is ready to put himself in danger in order to assure the consolidation and the stability of his regime.
Well, I can keep going on and talking about this for a very long time, but we're just about to finish the show. And just before we do, I want to ask you about Gaza. Just one question. Hamas fired on Israeli troops inside the Israeli-controlled zone, and the IDF responded heavily. Could this risk the U.S. brokered truce, or are these just small hiccups along the way? Avraham, what do you think?
Oh, I think IDF is still working all across the yellow line. And I think this will happen more than we would hope. And I hope it's just an hiccup. But on the other hand, I'm not sure phase 2 is feasible anyway. And I don't see any disarmament of Hamas. So it doesn't really matter if this is a hiccup or a big problem, because I don't see Hamas leaving their weapons behind anytime in the near future.
If you're waiting for my response, I think that the decision on Gaza has been taken from Israel. Now it is being concentrated in the Kiryat Gat, the headquarters of the American international force, and all what we are hearing and seeing is, as Abraham said, hiccups. There's nothing serious. I mean, I don't see the Israeli army invading invading Gaza. This is over. The war is over. Now the question is, how do we implement the second stage? And it will take some time, but definitely the basic war is over.
And you don't think you think it's a possibility we may not reach the second stage?
It could be. It could be. We could stay where we are today. And I don't think that this is a situation that the Americans would accept. I think that we'll do whatever they want. We have to wait and see, as you said, that if the Indonesians and the Kazakhstanis and others, the Azeris, are coming or not coming. I mean, we just read yesterday that the U.S. administration spoke about that with Yemen. So, I mean, we don't know what sort of army will come there. But at the moment you will have a foreign army presence in Gaza, this is the end of Israeli intervention inside Gaza.
Avraham, final words about this?
No, I'd rather not comment more. I think Jacques explained exactly the situation. And as someone that will go back to the reserves, to the southern front, I'd rather keep things at that. Thank you.
All right. Well, Avraham Levine and Jacques Neriah, thank you very much, both of you, for this input.
You're welcome.
Great day.
Now that's a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour, broadcasting live from Israel and the heart of the Middle East. We're here every hour on the hour with the latest breaking developments, in-depth reports, and exclusive insights into the stories shaping the region and the world. Stay with us throughout the day for our next edition of ILTV on the Hour. We'll be here as events continue to unfold. Scan the QR code for our app. Until then, I'm Sivan Raviv. Thank you very much for watching.